Hello, hello, everyone. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Mindful Constitution podcast. I'm hanging out today with Shana Medeiros. Shana is many things. She's a wellness mentor. She also is a boy mom, a fellow boy mom of two, and a wife. We also, funnily enough, went to high school together. So it's just cool to connect in this season of life and talk about motherhood and finding balance and wellness in motherhood. And yeah, she has a really cool story of kind of motherhood catapulting her onto her own wellness journey. So I can't wait to dig in and talk about all of these things together. So how's it going?
Good, good. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to chat.
Yeah, me too, girl. I think it's always funny talking to people that, I mean, we weren't like really close friends in high school or anything. We were more acquaintances, but even just like having known of you and who you are for a long time and then reconnecting and talking. I don't know,
Yeah,
there's something cool about having that shared history.
the power of social media too, just connecting to like-minded people that you didn't know you could connect with before. Like we just didn't in high school, but now we have because we
Yeah.
share likeliness, boy, mom, and wellness.
Yeah, exactly. I know, motherhood. We were just chatting about that before we hopped on, like how the first year of motherhood has been going for me. And I'm really excited to talk to you actually, because I know you have two boys under two, and just having one boy, that's one. I'm like, basically, if I was in your shoes, I'd pretty much be like getting pregnant again right now. And I have a lot of newfound respect for people who have kids back to back because I'm just, like your body going through that twice. I mean, I just feel like there was so many shifts even postpartum with hormones, hair falling out, cycle returning, hair growing back, weight loss, like breastfeeding, all of the things. It's just a lot. And so I can only imagine, finally like getting your feet under you and then getting pregnant again. So I know you kind of talk a lot about, losing yourself a little bit in the beginning of motherhood, especially with the back-to-back pregnancies. So tell me more about your journey into motherhood and a little bit about how you kind of felt like you lost yourself in the early days.
Well, I think, first of all, I think there's a lot of pressure for women to have or families to have back-to-back births, like having siblings close in age. I feel like there's like this weird pressure for people to do it so quick these days. But I would say first of all, don't feel that pressure. Like if I think that there's also greatness in just kind of raising one kid at a time too, and just having that time with them. Um, Not saying I would do anything different, but I can definitely see the plus in both sides, waiting,
Mhm.
getting it spaced out, and also having them back to back. I mean, you're in the chaos, and it's like might as well just keep that chaos going rather than getting settled and starting it all over again. But so don't feel like pressured to have like back to back siblings, having them close in age. Um, Motherhood was like really different for me. I feel like it was not what I was expecting it to be. Um, it was the first time I had really felt loneliness when I had my first son. I didn't live around any family. I didn't have any friends that were stay-at-home moms. I had friends who had had kids, but like they didn't live close to me or they were working. And so I kind of felt like I was in it alone. My husband worked really long hours, 12-hour days, sometimes 6 days a week. So when I had my first son was like that was like I had like that moment where I was like, wow, this is like what loneliness is. Like I just felt alone.
Mhm.
But like I feel like the first year is such a roller coaster. Everything is always changing, nothing stays consistent. And so like I feel like I really struggled with that, like having the inconsistencies with like feeding schedules or napping schedules. It's like I feel like once you get into a groove, they change. They go through a regression or developmental milestone or something, and everything is just changing, and then you have to readapt. So that was a struggle for me in the first year. So I feel like once I got pregnant, it was before my son had even turned 1. I had just kind of gotten thrown into like the whole thing all over again. So I didn't really have time to adjust, like to just
Stabilize.
yeah, once, you hit that 1 year mark. Um, I was breastfeeding too and pumping, and it felt like a lot. And then I stopped breastfeeding at when he turned 1, but then I was back into being pregnant. So body hormones changing, and it just felt like a whirlwind. But at looking back, it also happened just so fast. Everything just, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I was just riding the waves. It was just like,
Yeah. You're like, I'm just hanging on for dear life here.
yeah, I'm just riding the waves, doing what I can. And my oldest son, he had a lot of like issues in the first 6 months. Like he was really hard to put to sleep, and like he would cry, and I had a really hard time settling him. I just remember like rocking him like
Oh my God.
endlessly, like just trying. And
The hours clocked in the rocking chair for me before we did finally resort to some variation of sleep training, like it was half
yes,
the day
yeah. And so what
between like naps and nighttime.
do I like bought a sleep training course, and I was like, I need like some sort, because I was in it
Yeah.
by myself, so I needed some sort of stability. And so we were definitely a sleep training family.
The like contentious energy around sleep training is so wild. The people that are for and against, even with sleep training having a spectrum of like intensity. It's like you don't have to do like full blown cry it out. There's so many shades of
Yeah,
gray.
yes.
And but it's just also, I understand, like, yeah, you don't want to let your kid cry it out for hours on end and whatnot. But it's like, dude, you also have to weigh the sleep deprivation and the impact that has on quality of life. Because I was borderline like losing my shit by 10 months with not getting any sleep. And like this can't be good for him because then during the day I'm like a zombie with a short fuse, whereas like I get a full night of sleep, I'm feeling good and excited to hang out with him and all that. So there's so many things to like pros and cons to both, and I don't judge people either way. I'm like, however you got to get your sleep, honey, whether it's co-sleeping,
To do to
sleep
survive.
training, do you boo, but I
Yeah,
gotta sleep.
I know. And it was really important for me to have that, because I needed, and like you said, people are for and against it. There's so many noise around it. And so just like you just need to remember to do what you need to do for yourself, and just try,
Hmm.
you know, tune out what everyone else is saying. So for the first year, that was like consumed my life. Just like I felt like I was trying to do everything perfect, the sleep training, the feeding schedules. And like, so the first 6 months I was breastfeeding, I removed everything from my diet to try to help him, calm down. I didn't have dairy, I didn't have eggs, I already don't eat gluten. And so I had done all these like research on like how your breast milk can affect, their stomach, or, their sleep patterns. And so I just felt overly consumed with like doing everything for him to try to
Hmm.
make my life easier or
Hmm.
better. Um, and then with my second, I mean, this is when I really feel like I kind of like lost it, is because he was a COVID baby. He was born just before the pandemic hit in January 2020. And so I had two under two, I had two C-sections. My husband had no paternity leave. Um, like I said, I had no family around. So I was like in the house alone with two babies trying to just survive. And this is kind of when I just like lost myself. I wasn't doing anything for myself.
Yeah.
I was really just in survival mode. And I had got diagnosed with like a heart condition in my second pregnancy. So I had to go on prednisone, which was also like really like heart wrenching for me, because I try to keep everything very natural. And so being on that, and then I had side effects from that, and just it made me gain a lot of weight.
Mhm.
And it just was a really hard time. And
And
looking,
it's really intensifies, it can make you irritable, right? This is a
I
steroid.
have,
So roid rage.
yep, more postpartum rage, just like emotions all over the place and just like not knowing, like it was just a weird time in general for everybody. And so I lost my train of thought where I was going. Sorry.
Oh, you were just saying that it was really hard being at home during COVID with two babies. It was the first time you really felt loneliness. And,
Yep.
one thing I wanted to highlight with all of that too is like, I I don't know if you felt this way, but I felt so nervous to like leave the house with a newborn at first. Like it took me a while to be like confident, just even running errands with a new baby. You feel like you don't want to leave the house and everything feels like such a hassle. Um,
Yeah.
when you're getting used to it. It's like, and
Care
so,
for
yeah,
like baby wearing if you're grocery shopping, or like when I would shop with the two, I'd be shopping with the stroller, and like it's a lot. It's a lot to prepare just to leave the house, and that alone can be overwhelming, especially if you're on like a nap schedule. All right, we got to get out of the house by 8, so we get home by 9, so they're down for the nap by 9:30, and then we gotta, it's like everything is, you don't want to mess anything up because that can throw off the whole day, which then throws off the whole night. And it's just like, I feel like it's so much pressure to try to keep everyone balanced. Like,
mm,
because like baby doesn't sleep at night and that affects everybody, right? Your mood, your husband's mood, your younger child or older child's mood. But so that was like the when we were home, my husband still was working. He was still out of the house 12-hour days. And so going grocery shopping with the two kids, like I remember just driving by a grocery store and seeing the long line around the corner, and it was cold. Like it was terrible. And I'm like, I can't stand outside with these two kids. And I remember just like driving home in tears, just like, what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. It was a really hard time. And so I think once, flash forward a year, when my youngest turned 1, and I started to like really get the courage to focus on my needs and my wellness. Looking back, I didn't realize how much I really needed it. I didn't realize how much I was struggling in the moment until I looked back.
yeah. Isn't it wild how that happens where you don't realize how miserable you are until you kind of get out of it and you're like, whoa, I
I feel like
definitely,
in survival mode. You've got these, two babies or one baby, and you are just trying to do the best for them. And you're just in the motions, just,
right.
I said, riding the waves, just trying to stay afloat and keep everyone else afloat as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
and I think when you're in it, I definitely had moments like that too, where I was like, oh my God, am I gonna feel like this forever? You don't realize like you're adjusting to something new. Also, the newborn phase is challenging because they need you so much, but they don't offer like much in return. Whereas once they get to be a year old, their personality is developing. Like you can interact with them when they're a newborn. You're just like, okay, gotta keep this blob alive. Gotta nurse them every 2 seconds, put them down for sleeping. They can't hold up their head. It's just like a whole thing. And so I feel like what so many women and like what I would have wanted to hear during that time is like, trust me, this feels like you're never going to adjust to this, but you will. And somehow it just becomes second nature eventually.
yes. It's like starting anything new. Like there's a trial and error period, and but I feel like there's just so much pressure on moms to like have good babies, have good sleepers, have, do you know what I mean? Like I feel
Hmm.
like, or like once they get older, get them potty trained at by a certain age. I just feel like there's just so much like, oh, he's not sleeping through the night yet. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And especially if you have friends who also have kids and you see that their kids are sleeping through the night, or their kids are eating certain foods that your kid won't eat, there's
Yeah.
just like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah. When in reality, every baby is just so different that
And it's
instead of,
trial and error, you're just getting to know each other.
Yeah, and kind of like, and that's so true too, just getting to know, and it's such a good lesson for life instead of comparing, to just get more curious about, your own needs, wants, whether it's yourself and you're comparing yourself to other people or your kid to other kids. And I feel like a lot of the times when am in sync with Arthur, or I notice when I'm not, it's usually because I'm preoccupied and I'm like bringing different energy to the table. Whereas if I just kind of slow down and I'm like, wait, half the time, one thing he does that's so funny is whenever I'm on the phone or like on our nature walks, I'll call my mom a lot and whatnot, and he'll be like yelling in the background because me and
Mhm,
my mom get fired up chit-chatting about stuff. And then
mhm.
as soon as I get off the phone, he's like quiet. And I feel like, and then the other night I was nursing him and I was super preoccupied and my mind was racing and I didn't realize it. And all of a sudden he's nursing and he's just like pounding his little hand on my chest. You know how sometimes they like bang you on the chest? And
Yeah,
all of a sudden I like got sucked into the present and I was like, oh my God, I was just so preoccupied. Like he could probably feel like
yeah.
it.
You're
And then
in.
he started smiling at me and we just smiled at each other and I was in the moment again and I'm like, "Oh, how sweet it really is if you take the time to like listen to what your kid's saying instead of just being like, you're annoying me." It's like, actually, he's probably trying to tell you to shut up and calm down.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely feed off of your energy. And I've noticed that recently too, just like with my kids being home for the summer. Like if I have a morning routine. I like to have this routine before they get up. And sometimes if they get up early, I get really annoyed. And they can feel that from me. And I feel like it just kind of sets a terrible tone for the day because then they feed off of that energy. And so I'm really trying to be more aware and more relaxed and just, no matter what time they wake up, making sure that we're all just like starting the day and like calm or,
As calm as you can.
as calm as I can. Cause I really felt that when I was annoyed, then they started fighting more and it just like, I'm a firm believer in just starting the day on like the right foot.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
when they're babies, they feel it too. I remember that like if you're stressed, they're going to feel that stress and they're going to be harder to put down or you know,
Yeah.
relax. You're not going to be able to calm a crying baby if you're,
You're
emotional.
in fight or flight. Yeah, totally. I know it's so true. And I can see it in action when I'm trying to do too much or I'm preoccupied where he's kind of just like, Mom, be present. I feel like he's my little mindfulness
A
teacher.
good reminder to
Yeah. So
just
tell us, yeah, exactly. Tell us about, how you did get your groove back and how you were able to start prioritizing your own health and wellness and what shifts you kind of saw from doing that.
so before I had kids, I actually was like, very in I worked out all the time. I went to the gym 3 times a week at least and like I, considered myself a very healthy eater. Um and was really into just living a healthy lifestyle. And then I had kids and I thought that I would continue that. But when I got pregnant, I had a really hard time just like getting up. I was tired, all the things. So I stopped going to the gym. And then I thought once I had a kid, I would be able to just drop them off at the babysitter at the gym and be able to go work out. And that never worked out. He would cry, they'd call me. I'd be so stressed about trying to make class times around nap schedules. And like, it never happened. So I just didn't go because it was too hard. And so then with my second pregnancy, I got really sick and I had that heart condition and I had to start seeing a
Cardiology.
cardiologist. Yeah, cardiologist. And once I was getting off the prednisone and he was like, you really need to lose weight. You really need to get healthy. Like this, it's not good for your heart. Um, and I just looked at him and was like, I have 2 kids. What do you mean? Like, I can't do this. I have no time. I just had all of these negative thoughts around like because I only saw fitness in one way, going to a
Agree.
going to the gym, getting into a class. If I can't do that, I can't just go work out. Like, I don't have that motivation. I just had all of these limiting beliefs. Um, and then what shifted for me was I saw a mom on Instagram who, she had a daughter that was the same age as my son. And she was getting up at 5 a.m. every morning before her kids woke up to work out. And I watched her for months do this.
Isn't
And
it funny how we like probably get triggered, but we still watch because ultimately it's a seed being planted because the reason why we're triggered is because we actually like want to make that change.
want to be that, we want to be able to do that. And
Yeah.
so like I was watching her and I was like, wow, I really wish I could do this. I really wish I like, and she would message me and be like, hey, I see you're watching. Like, do you need any help getting started? And I would ignore her. I wouldn't say anything. And I just kept watching her. And then, we were getting ready to go on a vacation. And, that was my motivation. I was like, I really need to start. I don't feel comfortable. I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I feel. I want to feel better. So I messaged her back and I was like, yes, I need help. Like, what do I do? And so she helped me like get started on a wellness platform with workouts and nutrition. And I just was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I started slow and I would try to fit in my workouts during the day between nap times or at night when my husband um, came home. And just from doing like 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, I started to feel like more energy from it. And like one of the things that I feel like a lot of people think about is like, I don't have the energy for this. I don't have the motivation, the energy. I'm so tired. If I already have so much going on, how can I add one more thing? And then I realized that this was actually giving me more energy to do the rest of my life, to show up for my kids, to, have the energy to get through the witching hour, have more patience through the day. And so I was like, all right, I need to be more consistent with this. And so I started waking up at like 4:30 in the morning to
Mhm.
work out and be more consistent. And that I was shocked at like how much better I felt.
Mhm.
It's like something that like I knew existed because I did it before I had kids, but for some reason it just didn't register in my mind that like this could actually help me in my struggles with being so tired and irritable and impatient and just like wanting time for myself that I
Mhm.
couldn't, that like nobody was going to give me. There was nobody around to just be like, hey, like you need a break. I'm going to give it to you. Like, so
You
I
gotta
need,
make it happen.
yeah, I needed to take it into my own hands and make it happen. And so I guess like the motivation to start was just like needing to get healthier because of my heart and just like wanting to feel better and feel more confident. And it was something that I didn't think I could do, wake up earlier. Like my kids, I didn't feel like, I kept saying to myself, I'll wait until they are better sleepers. I'll wait until they're sleeping through the night. I'll wait until it gets easier. And a year goes by and it didn't happen. Things weren't getting easier. Their sleep was still just all over the place. So I was like, okay, I might as well just get started. So when I started waking up earlier at 4:30 and working out, I just felt like such a weight lifted off of me. Like it just was like I felt like I had uncovered some sort of hidden secret to just doing mom life better. My kids woke up. I wasn't irritated by them waking me up because I had already woken up and done something for myself, something that was giving me power, giving me energy, giving me like, you know, so like sense of peace. And then when they woke up, I could just completely focus on them. And I had already poured into myself so that I was able to do that better. And
Mhm.
it gave me lasting energy through the day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that it was just very eye-opening for me, like something that I had just thought was impossible and then did it and I was like, wow, it's life-changing.
Yeah, it's basically the epitomization of, like fill your cup so that you can be there for the people around you and that like self-care isn't selfish and also just highlighting so many things you said, which is one, all the limiting beliefs that we have around things like, oh, I could never do that. And so many people scoff at waking up early to work out and it's like, well, what if you knew that you were gonna feel better throughout the day? You were gonna have more energy because you woke up a little earlier. And you're also going to have more self-confidence over time because you're feeling better about the way you look and feel, not just day to day, but actually like the progress you're making physically and mentally over time with consistency and starting to trust yourself and feel better about the way you look. And then on top of that, you also said starting small. I think that's so key because worked with so many people who like jump in headfirst to a health and wellness journey and they're like, okay, I'm gonna do like everything at once. And then that's what proves you
They
right.
try
When you
hard.
say like, yeah,
When they try hard
yeah,
and they set unrealistic goals for themselves and
yeah.
give up because it's hard.
Right. And you're like, yeah, you don't have the energy for this because you're going from doing like nothing. You're not even giving yourself the opportunity to see the shift from like integrating exercise in little ways. Like you'll start to notice you have more energy and then you can build instead of like going from ground zero to like working out an hour every morning. Then yeah, totally. And it's like the rookie mistake, I think.
Hmm.
Slow and steady wins the race, honey.
Yeah, and another rookie mistake too is going into it for the wrong reasons
Mhm.
and expect wanting quick results.
Yeah.
And like going into it being like, I want to lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. And then when you don't, you set unrealistic goals and then you get to that 2 weeks and you're like, well, it's not working. And you give up.
Yeah. I see a lot of people do that with like alcohol removal too, where they're like, I didn't drink for 3 weeks and I'm not skinny and like loving my life. And it's like, well, these are gradual shifts over time. You're making lifestyle changes. What is the purpose behind these? And you want more energy. You want to feel better in your clothes. Like you want to be healthier as a human. Generally, people say things that are long-term goals, but they want a quick fix. And it's like, you recognize you just said you want to improve your health. You want to be able to play with your kids on the floor and be more flexible. Like it's not going to happen in 2 weeks. And ultimately, like these are choices you have to make for a lifetime in order to like experience true vibrant health. It's not and it's so I heard it all like all of the things like, well, I just need some quick weight loss and that'll motivate me. And I'm like, also, motivation. Let's talk motivation because motivation is never always going to be high. So you can't rely on motivation.
I mean, motivation doesn't just appear out of nowhere. You got to cultivate it and
Yeah.
create it. The more you do it, the easier it gets because once you feel those endorphins or you feel better just from removing something from your life and you start to feel that, then you want it more. You want to cultivate it. And that's where
Mm.
motivation comes from.
Yeah.
It's not here out of nowhere. Like,
Yeah. And people are always like, I'm just not motivated. I'm like, neither is the fitness person that you see that's like jacked. They're not just motivated 100% of the time. They continue to do that and they built motivation through positive reinforcement, through doing shit when they didn't feel like doing shit. And it's like discipline is much more important than motivation, uh, in my opinion. But I wanted to ask because I think, a lot of people see health and wellness people online and they're like, oh, none of that seems realistic, even waking up early. And I know you call yourself scrunchy, which is kind of like crunchy, but not extreme. And so, can we talk about what your philosophy is on approachable wellness, especially as a mom? Like, what would you say are your biggest like areas of focus to keep it down to earth?
so my biggest area of focus is definitely food ingredients. I read ingredient labels. And I feel like I'm like kind of almost self-taught just over the years. I'm just researching things because I have my own health issues, and so I've dove into those health issues in a holistic way of treating them, like focusing on my diet, focusing on what supplements I'm taking that can support my body and what it needs. Um, so that I don't have to take a ton of medications that have side effects that are gonna, later in life hinder my health in other ways. So ingredients is my biggest thing. I'm very picky about what foods I buy, snacks I buy, what I feed my kids. But if they go to a friend's house and they have Cheetos or Doritos or something, I'm not going to stress about it.
Hmm.
It's, I'm not going to freak out and be, I
You're not
don't
gonna freak out.
I'm not gonna yell at the parent and be like, how dare you feed my
Feed
child
my kid poison.
processed food coloring and poison. Um, so
Imagine.
I feel like I find like the balance in that. Like I'm not, I want them to live their life. I don't want to put major restrictions on them because I don't want them to have an unhealthy relationship around food. Um, so that's a challenge. I mean, just trying to teach them what is real food, and some food is good for our soul, and some food is, better for our bodies and giving us energy. And so, I we go out for ice cream and stuff, but I try to like limit sugars and seed oils and all that stuff. So that's my main focus. And then, I feel like one thing always leads to another. So then I get more into um, like medications, like if they're sick, like certain, like I won't buy certain brands or, you know, I'm trying to think of like what else I could,
Focus. Yeah,
um,
focusing on
or like detergents or fragrances or their toothpaste, stuff like that. Like I feel like I try to make better choices, but I'm not going out of my way and stressing. I don't want to add more stress to my life, to making sure I have the cleanest ingredients,
yeah.
but just making like the better for you options and just knowing what that is,
Right. I
and
always say like um because I think it gets really misconstrued on when you see things on social media and then you only see people who are like very extreme in their approach and whatnot. So for the average person, it seems really unapproachable. But I think there's like two things. One is like it kind of snowballs, like as your education and awareness increases around the products that you're choosing, there is actually really easy ways. Like, do you use the Yuka app?
I more so use the EWG just
Yeah.
because Yuka, I've heard, doesn't take into account ingredients. They like for food products, but if you're using it for personal care items,
Yeah.
it's a good app. But for food, I've heard it's not as good.
Yeah, that's interesting because I thought it was powered by the EWG, like the same but anyways, just like finding tools or educating yourself, it kind of just becomes easier, right? Like you just expand. You don't do everything at once. That would be overwhelming if you're like just getting into a low tox or non-toxic lifestyle and you think you have to overhaul your home. Whereas if you just like start when something runs out, looking at what is a good, healthier option for toothpaste or this. And even just like caring like a little bit, I always say giving the teensiest fuck can make a really big difference because you don't just buy the default. Like that's right there from the main five like producers. You can look a little bit and it's not that hard to find a healthier option these days.
There are affordable options. I know people have an issue with that too. Is buying cleaner ingredients is more expensive, and it might be a little bit more expensive, but you have to look at like the longer picture. Like what's cheaper now is going to cost you later, and so like if you just add in little by little things that are better for you options, it's going to have a major impact on your overall
Yeah,
overall.
And it depends on what you wanna prioritize too. Like, for us, like, we're definitely by no means, like, a wealthy family just with, like, tons of money to spend on organic foods and, like, natural products. That's for sure, but we are strategic about it, you know? We just got, like, a Costco membership, and there's, like, tons of organic brands there, surprisingly, and for a family.
Oh, you just got
Yeah.
a membership.
Dude, it's awesome. I'm not kidding you, like, for every aisle, I was, like, whipping things off the shelf. I'm like, "This is $5 for a 10-pound bag of sweet potatoes."
I know, it's amazing. They have so many great options. And
Yeah.
just as your kid gets older and you need to like buy snacks or, pack for whatever, they have so many great, healthier alternative snacks for
Yeah.
children. It's
Mhm.
really nice. I love Costco.
Dude, I know. I was like, I used to shit on this place so hard, and I'm obsessed with
Why? Why did
it.
you shit on it?
Just because when we first got a membership, I was like, this is like so mouth breathery of us. It's like a big box store, like warehouse. And then also it was just John and I. And we lived in an apartment with like no extra storage. And it wasn't like we like had toilet paper for 2 years and nowhere to put it. And I'm like, this was dumb. We paid for a membership for 1 year and like have hand soap for the rest of our lives. And
Yeah,
but
no,
now it's like as soon as you have a kid, it makes sense because like diapers, wipes, household stuff, and you have space for it. And so, yeah.
we're on the topic. I don't buy the Kirkland brand diapers.
Okay.
Did you?
I think I might have.
This is like one of okay,
I haven't used them yet though.
perfect example of like don't go too crazy, but if you see something, the Kirkland brand diapers just tested positive for the forever chemical
Oh God.
they're finding in like clothing and all that stuff. So don't like freak out about it, but just
I'm like, oh, hang on, I gotta go. No, sprint
just
home.
don't change his
Done.
diaper.
They're not diaper Arthur. No, yeah, I'm the same as you. I'm like, you know what? I do my best, but I'm sure there's things that slip through the cracks. I mean, I'm not worried about it because I'm giving a teensy fuck most of the time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. You just try to make the better choices, but like,
If you literally do that, you're better off than like 90% of Americans.
yeah,
So, congrats. Barely
yeah.
try and you're crushing it.
Start with one thing, focus on that one thing, and then add little by little, and you'll watch your whole life just change. So
Yeah, it really does. And it's funny too, because I definitely am guilty of, back when I ultimately wasn't that committed to being healthy. I always had health, like relatively health conscious. I mean, I was working for getting my degree in nutrition and had done psychology. My family was always like super crunchy and healthy growing up. And so I was exposed to being more health-minded, but I had seasons of my life where I wasn't at all, but I always like wanted to be healthy, even in the times I wasn't, and I would like get triggered by things that I would see and be like, that's not realistic. Like you can't, oh, like who has the time for this type of stuff? But it is wild. It's like you have time for what you prioritize, and when you start to prioritize things that make you feel better and you enjoy your life more, it's very positively reinforcing than like feeling like shit, not having energy, not liking the way you look, like all of those things. Like, how fun is that? It's like, how realistic is that to live your whole life that way, So it's a trade off, but
maybe that realization comes with maturity, and
yeah.
so maybe we just have to get to that level of maturity to kind of realize what we're doing. And some of us are thrown into it earlier than others. Like maybe it's, like
Health
for
cares and stuff too.
yeah, for me, when I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in my early 20s, that's really what kickstarted for me. It was really eye-opening for me, and just that's what kickstarted the whole like um, holistic health journey. So, and like for some people, maybe it's having kids when you're young, or anything. But I feel like it's sometimes is just that level of maturity, like you're just not mentally there yet.
Yeah, and as you get older too, and you can't just treat yourself like shit and completely bounce back, you start to realize like, oh wow, my health isn't just a given. I have to build it and work on it. And like, yeah, maybe I could black out and be fine the next day, or I could eat whatever I wanted and never gain weight or not feel like crap. But like, as you get older and you realize, like, okay, actually, these choices are starting to compile, and I'm moving in a direction that like I can see is not going towards health.
Mhm.
And yeah, it definitely starts to put things into perspective. And we were talking about before the call too, just being in your mid 30s is like there starts to be a fork in the road between people who have been taking care of themselves and are starting to really pay attention to their health and overall well-being, and people who are still making the same choices they have their whole life, like in their 20s. And it starts to show, it's like you can't hide your choices as you age like you can in your 20s.
Right. I feel like you can always hear when people are like heavy drinkers in their voice as they get
Mhm.
older. Do you know what I mean? Do you know like
Tell
do you know
me.
what I'm talking about? Like I just feel like they get this like I don't know, in their throat kind of like what and you can just tell that they've just been like binging for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe this is just me and maybe I'm just making an
No,
assumption.
I know it is. It's definitely something I feel like I can feel less, I mean, in people's just overall life force and zest for life and how they show up and eye contact and clarity of eyes and just the energy someone has is so obvious when they don't drink a lot or they're drinking regularly. I can really feel like people just having like heavier energy who drink a lot and
Yes.
just being generally yeah, like, not as upbeat, which makes sense. It's a depressant. Speaking of which, I wanted to segue into because I know, obviously I work with a lot of sober curious clients and I talk with a lot of people who like don't drink at all. And I know you still have alcohol as part of your lifestyle, but we were talking about how it's shifted as you have focused more on your health and wellness. And I'd love to hear like what your approach is as someone who is very health conscious with your relationship to alcohol.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like having kids back to back was kind of like a sobriety journey in itself, just like not drinking for 9 months and then breastfeeding and then, getting pregnant again. So really, I didn't drink hardly at all for two plus years. And
Mhm.
then, drinking after that just I feel like it just didn't fit too much into my life when my kids were young because like I still had to be up with them sometimes and like why would I want to drink if like I have to get up early
But a
and
lot
it
of
just
people do.
a lot of people do but I don't understand how you can function or it's not how I want to function.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I don't want to be hungover on the couch sleeping while they're, my kids have so much energy and like I want to be able to keep up with them. So I don't really, buy alcohol. I don't keep it in my house, not for any moral reasons, just because like I don't drink on like a regular basis, like by myself. I drink socially, like if I go out or if it's like a special occasion, a friend's birthday. Um, but one thing I notice is like when I do drink and I wake up the next morning, I don't make healthy choices drinking, I want to eat garbage to like make me feel better. I'm hungrier. I want to eat more. I don't have any energy to like move around. And like I feel like as I get older, that it's not just one morning, it's not just one day. It then trickles over to the next day and
Hmm.
the next day. So like everything has a trickle effect. So if in my life, the reason why I wake up early is to feel better and to show up better for my family, drinking heavily on a regular basis, that's not serving that goal. That is hindering any goals that I have for myself and my family. And recently, I've had two other moms who have joined my wellness community and who have started working on themselves, getting up early, and they just on their own decided that they were going to eliminate alcohol because it was no longer serving
Yeah.
what working towards. And it was just one glass of wine a night. She would stay up, watch TV, have one glass of wine a night, and then she said she couldn't get up early in the morning and work out. And so she was like, so this is not serving me right now. So she just decided to give it up completely, like not even on the weekends or socially or whatever. And I think just having two people do that simultaneously that don't even know each other, I thought that was like really inspiring. And I thought, I was like, wow, like that's amazing that you have realized this about, yourself. Because like ultimately, like my goal is just helping moms feel better. And so if that's what's helping them, then I want them to do that. Um, did I get off topic?
No, I was actually going to ask you about that because I know we had talked about it, but it sounds like it's basically just really shifted for you because of the demands of motherhood, because of wanting to feel your best. So it's just not something you integrate regularly. And even when you do, it's like going in eyes wide open, like, this is not going to make me feel my best, like tomorrow. And this is why I don't do it regularly. And I love what you highlighted with that mom too, because I feel like a lot of people, our standards for the ways in which alcohol impacts our lives are, like, oh, I'm not even hungover. It's like, okay, but what is our definition of a hangover? Is it like incapacitated on the bed, like wanting greasy food all day? Or like, do you tune into the more subtle ways, like drinking regularly impacts you? Like maybe I, maybe your anxiety is slightly higher. Maybe you're not able to get up as earlier. Maybe you're a little more lethargic throughout the day. Like when we
You're
tune into our body, there's lots of more subtle ways that drinking regularly can kind of keep us in a low vibrational state or like prevent us from really thriving. And so that's why I always love sober curiosity. And I think it's common, for people to overlook the impact even like minimal drinking can have on improving your health, really getting the most out of your life in mental, emotional, spiritual, physical health. And so,
So if I am going out and I know that I'm going to be drinking, I definitely try to like balance it out. So I'll make sure that I hit my water goals before I leave. When I come home, I'll drink electrolytes. Um, and I feel like a lot of times people too, when they're going out and they know that they're going to be consuming a lot of calories, they don't eat for the day. Like they try to balance it out that way. Like I won't eat now because I know I'm going to eat a lot later. So I don't do that. I make sure that I hit all of like my goals for that day, like my carbs, my veggies, my protein. I don't want to then go out and have a drink and I haven't eaten all day. I know how that's going to affect me and it's going to have a much more negative reaction. So just balancing out my day when I know that I might be having like drinks later with friends or whatever, and then coming home and make sure that I'm replenishing myself
mhm.
so that I don't feel as terrible the next morning.
Yeah.
But sometimes I do all this and I'm like, is it worth it? I'm doing like all this work, but I mean, I also feel like, also finding balance is just, not going to extremes. Just,
Yeah. And I
if
think like this is why it's important to personalize your relationship to health, right? Is like that works for you. And I also think it's important to say like you've never been someone who's really like overindulged in alcohol, right? Even before
I
kids.
I feel like before kids, I have a high tolerance for alcohol, so I feel like I could have a lot of drinks and be completely, not completely, but like I don't black out, I don't get belligerent, like I'm not like an angry drunk or anything, but so like before having kids and stuff, I would drink more often, like maybe Friday and Saturdays every weekend.
Mhm.
Um, but since I've gotten older, like I don't even feel like I think about it sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh, it's Friday, I need a drink. Or do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whereas
Yeah, that's what I always explain to people. And because too, is like, I think sometimes people who are problematic drinkers hear stories like yours and they're like, oh, like that's great. I'll just do that. But this is not what that is. It's like you have to really hold yourself accountable for what's working for you. And even with you being someone who could take it or leave it, you even said, still sometimes I'm like, is all this worth it to like accommodate for this? But it's like, it's not problematic in your life. It's fitting in. You're consciously consuming with eyes wide open, as we said. And so I think it's just so important to be really honest with ourselves about it. Like for me, that approach wouldn't work because I am such an overindulger, like such an all or nothing kind of person, which like I definitely try to find balance with that in the rest of my life, not being extreme and kind of finding like a healthy balance. But with alcohol, for me, it was like, no, this is something I need to be extreme with because it's like clearly be getting into like a problematic area.
feel
And
like there's no point in having just two drinks. You need
yeah,
more to feel that like numbness or whatever.
yeah, and like I was definitely drinking to escape a lot of the time, but it's like also now that I've worked through a lot of those things of drinking to escape, I actually don't have a desire to drink. I've built the like socialization muscle without it.
Mhm.
But I totally think it's healthy for people like to find their own way and to bring conscious awareness to it like you are and finding what works for you. And I think that's just what more people really need to do because a lot of times we just like get into societally habitual patterns of drinking, like drinking every day after work or like feeling like we have to drink socially because everyone else is. And so I think that what both of us are doing, even though it results in different approaches, is like what I always encourage is like bring conscious awareness to it and make sure that you feel good about whatever your dynamic is. And like it's allowing you to create your best life. And I think that's like the empowering piece.
Yeah, so something recently that happened with me too is that I went to Punta Cana to an all-inclusive resort. I
Mm.
through my wellness company and um you think all inclusive because it's already included, you're not paying for it. I can drink all day long, and a lot of people do, right? This
Hmm.
is like the first time I really felt like I didn't want to. I didn't
Yeah.
want to be sitting by the pool drinking. I didn't because it was a wellness trip. We were also working out every single morning, and so I didn't want to wake up feeling like garbage before a workout. And so like I feel like this was like the first time I went on a vacation where I didn't overly indulge in drinking. And
Yeah.
it was, I was like, I really don't need to. I mean, it feels almost like a sin because like kind of like I didn't pay for the trip, but like when you pay for an all inclusive, you're like, I'm already paying for it. I have to I mean,
Yeah,
that's
but then it's so funny because you're like, at what cost? Like, to my experience, that's also like I'm paying for, like how I feel every day with the experiences. We're like, have to drink all the alcohol. And then it's like, but then I might feel like shit every day too. So, how am I truly embracing this trip? It's like, it really is all about our perspective, on it, I think.
yeah. And so there was a few months where I felt like, so I'm a social drinker, but like it felt like every single weekend I had a friend who had a birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going out a lot. And so towards the end of that, couple months was that all inclusive trip. So I was just already kind of feeling like really tired and depleted just from like the going out with my friends. So when I came home, I did like a complete detox, like 4 week, and it actually carried on into 8 weeks because I was feeling so good and I didn't, want to stop. And so it was like 8 weeks of just not drinking anything and just really focusing on like my nutrition and stuff. And so every so often, I kind of like to do that just to kind
Mm-hmm.
of get back to factory settings and kind of remind myself of like what it feels just to be completely free of everything,
Yeah.
um, like that, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I
just
love
it's
that.
not just alcohol, but like the sugar
Yeah, yeah, just like a
or
cleanse.
like the eating out. Like I feel like sometimes if I eat out a lot, it doesn't make me feel good either, just like because, you know, we don't know what's being put in the food and all that. But
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of getting back to like eating at home, making my own food, making sure I'm drinking enough water and all that stuff. So
Yeah. That was so eye-opening for me too with vacationing sober and like deciding not to drink at all and actually coming back from vacations feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. I think a lot of times when I was drinking, it was just like vacation was just an excuse to like get drunk the entire time. And sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh my God, there's so many countries I went to that I was just like half in the bag, like half the time thinking like I'm traveling. But it's like, no, you weren't traveling. You were just getting drunk in a different location. Like you didn't see anything or do anything. You just like sat by a pool getting drunk. So it's like, how meaningful is traveling if that's what you're doing? Because you're not like seeing the sights or taking advantage of this new place you've never been. It's like you can be on a resort getting drunk like anywhere.
yeah,
It's just funny.
backyard.
Yeah, it's like I didn't need to leave the pool and at my house, and it's like the same thing. It's interesting. I would always come back from vacations like with anxiety, feeling like completely burnt out, needing a vacation from my vacation. And so yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, thanks for sharing your kind of approach. I think it's cool to have people like we were saying like all across the spectrum of health and wellness too just talking about because I think that naturally when you start working on your personal health and wellness, it's pretty hard not to explore your drinking if you're really doing it in a genuine fashion. I think a lot of people try to do it without exploring their drinking, but it's like a major speed bump that you could be ignoring when you do that. So,
Yeah.
okay, this is something I really want to talk about, and I know we're going to go a little bit over time, but that's okay. But I wanted to talk about building a social media brand business because I'm sure it's something a lot of like moms or women in general feel like they might be drawn to the idea of it, but they're really scared to start sharing or put themselves out there. I know for me, it was really hard in the beginning too. So, would you mind kind of briefly sharing about what inspired you to start putting yourself out there? What gave you the courage to just start sharing initially?
Well, working on myself and seeing how much better I was feeling and how much better I was approaching motherhood really inspired me to start just sharing. And first it just started with like my friends just being like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe how much better I'm feeling. Like you should do this with me." And then I just kind of felt like I needed to. I felt like I needed to tell more women that you're not alone with how you're feeling and that there is something you can do, that it's not unreachable. It's not, it doesn't have to be this is the way you're going to feel for the next 18 years. Like, I felt like I needed to tell them, like, they didn't know because I didn't know. And I felt like I needed just, me watching my mentor on Instagram every morning for months. I knew that there were other women who were just like me, seeing
Mm,
I wanted them to know that it was doable, that they could do it, and that like I'm no one special. Like I'm just like a mom who needed to find herself again. And this is what helped me and this is what worked for me. And so I wanted more women to know that they could do it. And it was very scary in the beginning. I mean, what was really helpful, I find myself like kind of an introvert. I'm not very chatty. I'm not, outgoing. Um, I think becoming a mom has made me a little bit more outgoing and willing to talk, and then now being on social media. But um, just having the support of the community around me that I was in the wellness community, that was really helpful. Just having other women doing it with me, and they give you the tools and the encouragement. Doing a lot of personal development work too, which is something that I never had would have thought about before.
what
Doing
specific aspects of personal development translated to developing a business online?
um just giving I guess just giving me the courage and the self-awareness and just doing the inner work, I felt like first. and then giving me the courage to tell other people. I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of a specific personal development book that I read that was kind of eye-opening for me. But I read Miracle Morning, which was like really the first one that I read, which was about how to take back your mornings. And it was very approachable for moms. I feel like a lot of times personal development can seem more for like a business person or like someone who's trying to, like grow a business. But this book really felt like it was speaking to me as a mom, um, prioritizing my mornings and, doing the reading and doing the journaling and doing just kind of like the inner work. I feel like I'm kind of getting off topic. I'm trying to
No,
like specifically like something that I read, but
no, I ask because I do feel like entrepreneurship, particularly like a public platform where you have to constantly share yourself as the face of a brand, is literally like a healing journey of its own. And you have to conquer so many limiting beliefs. And I love that you said that about the inner work because I think it's really hard to confidently put yourself out there unless you're doing the inner work and you're truly living in alignment with the message that you're sharing. And I think doing like putting yourself out there publicly forces you to be like in alignment with that. And I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people who aren't. That doesn't resonate for me. Like, that was why I stopped drinking because I didn't feel confident putting myself out there if I wasn't in alignment with my own health and wellness. And so, and just all the limiting beliefs like that come up around it and the fears, there's a lot about sharing yourself and the fear of judgment and what people are going to say and like really looking at that and being like, if people are going to be judging me with a pure intention of helping people, like that's on them. And it provides us this opportunity when you really realize like judgment is a reflection of our own insecurities. So then I got to be like, where am I judging other people? What am I getting triggered about? Because now I'm understanding that a lot of judgment is a projection of what we're insecure about ourselves. So not only does that help me release judgment that other people are putting on me for chasing my dreams and pursuing my goals, but it also is a tool for myself to reflect and be like, where am I judging other people? And how can I learn from that myself? And so it brings so much shit to the surface to look at.
that was a big one of like people's perception of you has nothing to do with you or, what people say about you. It's only a reflection of their own insecurities. The book You Are a Badass was
Oh,
some
yeah.
that was a great one that I felt like I read and I was just like, yeah, like why do I care what people are going to think about me? Like this is, about me. This is for me and how it is impacting me. I don't care what they, how they perceive me.
And you
And
never have like really happy, fulfilled people. Like,
mhm,
judging you or pretending they don't see anything you're doing or like watching everything and never liking or being supportive. Like happy people aren't the ones doing that. And so when you start to like put things into context and be like, who are the people that are genuinely supportive and excited for me? Let me look at the lives they have. Oh, weird. They're genuinely excited, fulfilled, and happy in their own life. Let me look at the people who have never asked me once about my business, never like a single post, talk shit about me behind my back. What kind of lives are they leading? Oh, they're miserable. So it's like you start to really realize that and it makes you be like, okay, like yeah, I'm just gonna do me because like honestly, if I'm afraid of lose like that what people are gonna say and how they're gonna show up, like do I want to dim myself down to maintain relationships with people who are miserable in their own lives and just don't want to see me happy because they're not happy? Like that's not a relationship I want to maintain through abandoning myself.
and a lot of times people can't see themselves doing what you're doing. And so that's like where their non-supportiveness comes from. Like they're not going to support you because what you're doing makes them feel uncomfortable. And it's like, well, it has nothing to do with you. So
Right.
it definitely brings to light a lot of things that maybe you were choosing to ignore before with relationships that you have with people.
Right.
And the personal development work just really gave me that confidence. And I wouldn't say that I had a lot of confidence when I started. I was still very nervous and very scared, but just seeing
Same.
seeing other people doing it. And I remember seeing you were one of the first people that I personally knew who was putting themselves out there. And I remember even telling you that you gave me confidence to then put myself out there and to be more consistent with it and not be so scared to, you know, be silly or, put
Yeah.
like sometimes you get imposter syndrome and you feel like, who am I to be telling people what to do? And so I feel like I needed that confidence to be like, no, I do have something to say and it does have substance and it will help somebody. And if it's just one person, then that it's worth it.
Yeah, and
So
like what's the alternative? Like not doing it because of what like Joe Schmo, who was a D-bag in high school and is still a D-bag now, who I'm never gonna see again, might think about me.
right. I'm
You know,
yeah,
it's like I had someone in your grade actually who I always thought was a douchebag in high school, but a message that he had sent me during the pandemic.
you told me
Like,
about this
oh,
in that walk,
yeah.
so I know exactly who
Yeah,
you're
I was like, you're still out here mansplaining and sliding into DMs to be condescending. Like, get out of here. Just like, oh, what are you preaching about? It's like, first of all, I'm sharing. I'm not preaching. I don't expect anybody to live like I do. I'm just trying to help people who need it. Like, what
and
are
the
you up
people
to in your life? Nice chat.
you get under his skin and like it's like nobody has like messaged me directly about that, but I see people who are watching my journey who just are literally always there every day but don't, like you said, like or comment or anything. And I know there is judgment and I'm just like, what? You have
Yeah, but
nothing.
it's so weird. Like for people who I don't align with, I don't watch their story the minute they post it and then refuse to support them. Like that is really weird to me when people watch everything you're doing and you're like, I mean, part of having a social media like account that's a business is that I look at the people who watch my story because I want to know who's like regularly here. Maybe I'll reach out to them, send them a message, be like I noticed you're here. Like, is there anything I can support you with? So when you see, I see, yeah, like I'm not an idiot. I'm going to check my story viewers as a business owner who's using a free social media marketing tool. And yeah, I see people who are regularly there who I know care nothing about alcohol-free living or holistic health, who I know never like a single thing I post. And to me, I just am like, I'm sorry that that's what your life consists of. If you need to be viewing everything I'm doing and not be supportive of it, like personally, that's not how I would do. That's not what I would do if like I wasn't into anything that you're posting, but like you do you, boo. Glad to
Yeah.
entertain.
One of the other aspects for me too about posting on social media is I knew it was going to hold me more accountable in my own journey. And so
Yeah.
like I really liked the idea of that, of like consistently showing up every day, even if I had 5 people watching me,
Mm-hmm.
just putting myself out there was holding me more accountable. It just like I wasn't going to just put myself out there just to show up one day and not another. So
Yeah.
like it really, and it gave me sort of like a hobby, something else I could focus on outside of motherhood, which is one of the things that I said before I didn't know, but I was desperately needing. I was
Yeah.
needing something for myself with substance that I could focus on and pour some energy into that was also pouring back into me, like helping women start a wellness journey to feel better. Like that is just, it's an amazing feeling. And just
Yeah.
like helping them get over these barriers of limiting beliefs and, helping them regain some sort of self and energy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really amazing experience. And then if I don't help anybody and I just work on my own journey, then
It's a
when
win-win.
I
Yeah.
mean I'm healthier and better for it. So like why wouldn't I? So
Right. I
yeah,
think that's like such a great antidote to when you're fearful for of judgment or what negative things people could say, which like comes up a lot for people putting themselves out on social media is like I just focus on the people I'm helping, focus on my own how I've improved my own life and know that. And the other thing I've really taken note of too is like not everyone who watches in silence is a hater. Because I've definitely had people who I see all the time and I'm like, it's weird that they watch everything and don't support. And then they've messaged me and been like, your account really helps me, blah, blah, blah. And it's like some people just watch in silence and they are inspired and they are like
I remember,
supported.
I think about that too when I was watching my coach for months and wouldn't
Right.
respond and wouldn't like say anything to her, but like silently, I was just like wanting what she had. And so I do think about that too, with people who are watching but not supportive. And especially when you get into like a bigger account and you have a larger following and you are going to have people that aren't going to interact with you because some people on social media are engagers and some people are just watchers and
Right.
they're ever and then some people are creators and
Yeah,
uh
and it's just part of like the whole package of like putting yourself out there. You have to get a thicker skin. You have to put things into perspective. You have to be like, okay, am I really going to let some random person and the potential for judgment or my perception they're judging me prevent me from fulfilling my life destiny or like doing something I'm passionate about, doing something that helps me and also helps other people. And so yeah, I love everything you're saying. I think it's so good and just good for people to hear too. Like intention is everything, and we're always going to be misunderstood by people, whether we're like living like a little dimmed light who's afraid of pissing anyone off, or we're like embracing our fullest potential. There's going to be people with negative things to say or judgments to be had, and it's just kind of like, well,
not
if you
going
think
to
of
be
it that
everybody.
way,
Like you can't speak to everybody because you'll speak
yeah.
to, right?
And
Isn't that
especially the more like passionate you are, the more honed in you are on what you do. Like if you're watered down, then yeah, maybe you will appeal to more people, but at what level?
hmm
So, okay, I know we're way over now. So the last couple things I wanted you to share is um okay, these are gonna be quick fire. What is your favorite part of being a boy mom?
Oh my gosh. I love I always wanted to be a boy mom. I love their fearlessness, their energy, um, their capability to just kind of get up and brush things off. I just feel like I was just always destined to be a boy mom, just because I
You
feel like,
are. You have boy mom energy.
thank you. I just it just feels like it's just no drama.
Yeah.
I like that. They're it's nice that they are so rough and tough, but then they're so sweet at the end of the day.
Yeah, I
So
know.
really sweet.
Love that. I know. I feel like I have girl mom energy, but I actually like needed a boy first. I feel like for my evolution as a human, like I'm so sensitive and
Uh,
emotional.
they'll toughen you up for sure.
Yeah, yeah. They're more like, Mom, just relax, shut up, and hang
Yeah,
out. Play with
right.
this truck. Let me breastfeed. I'm good. Yeah. So top three health and wellness hacks. If you could only pick three to like hone in on, what are your top three? Exercise
Um,
in the morning.
Morning. I mean, I definitely think utilizing your mornings, if it's not to exercise, just get up and start the day with intention and have some peace. Waking up to a peaceful house is so nice. But that also, you need to go to bed early. I know so many moms long for time for themselves at the end of the day and they end up staying up late and then they wake up tired and it's just a vicious cycle. But if you can switch that and start utilizing your mornings and starting that day for time for yourself rather than getting it at night, then it's just a good circle of, you know, healthier habits
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
more fulfilling, I think.
I know. I always say that too. I'm like, the morning routine starts with the nightly routine.
Exactly. So going to bed, which I know is hard, but I have always gone to bed when my kids go to bed. I just in bed at 7:30, in bed at 8, I'm in bed. I might not be sleeping, but like I need like wind down time. Drink water.
Yeah.
Water, I feel like is just magic. You drink more, you start to feel more energy. I mean, I just feel like one healthy decision always leads to more. And so when you're hydrated and you're feeling that, it just you want to make healthier choices and
The
better.
energy too from hydration is like when you hydrate actually throughout the day, you don't get that
Yeah.
afternoon slump from
Yes.
chugging coffee all morning and then you're like crashing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when I start to really focus on like my gut health and like stuff like that, and I make sure I'm it also becomes easier to hit your water goals when you're already kind of focusing on health. So when I hit those 120 ounces, I'm like, damn, I feel good. Like it is powerful. And it's free and it's so simple. So I don't know if number one counted for a two-parter because it was morning and nighttime. Let me
We'll
see.
leave it. That's
Oh,
count.
the inner work, doing the inner work.
Yeah. I
The
love that.
whether it's personal development or journaling, or devotional if you're religious, or if you listen to a podcast, or whatever, just doing the inner work. Mindset, having the right mindset around everything is a huge game changer. It just, your
Yeah.
body will not go where your mind doesn't let it. So
I know. And so you hear so many people. One thing I've really tuned into over the years, and I noticed it even before, like coaching and stuff and working in health and wellness, is just friends, people saying, like, oh, I could never do this. This person is like that. They are this, as if it's a fact. It's like, that's just your opinion. Like,
right.
your opinion is your opinion. It's not like the end all be all. And you hear people say stuff like that all the time without realizing how limiting their language is. And I mean, I even saying like, I always used to say, I'm really bad with names. And I'm like, are you really bad with names? Or do you just like say that because you don't try hard enough when you meet someone? Like maybe you should stop fucking saying that and just be better at remembering people's names, you know?
Whether you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and what you're saying to yourself and how powerful it is, just like offhandedly and unconsciously. It's like, yeah, well, that's what you're never going to be good at remembering names if you say
I
that for
can
3 seconds.
never wake up before my kids. I could never do that. So one of the girls that just signed up with me that cut out alcohol, I was talking to her for months, just like casually, just like connecting on a mom level, and she just would always tell me I could never get up early. I could never do that. I need my sleep. I like my time at night, and one day, I don't know, it just clicked to her, and she just started waking up early and she started working out with me, and it changed her life. And I tell her all the time, do you remember when you told me you could never do this? And she's like, yeah. She was really just holding herself back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Amazing
It's
to
wild.
do it. um Having that realization that you can do whatever you put your mind to.
Yeah, I know. I always say too, like with clients and stuff, I'm like, our biggest obstacle that will hold us back the most in life is our own unexamined thoughts. Because it really is your subconscious, your inner dialogue, the narratives and stories you're constantly telling yourself as like part of your identity in quotes that
Mhm.
you're like, I am this person. It's like, okay, well, you can keep saying that and you will be, but you don't realize like how limiting those things that you say and your subconscious beliefs, like if you don't explore them, they're just dictating your life without you even realizing it. Like at least make a conscious choice that you like if you want to be that person, but don't just do it on autopilot.
Mhm. Yes.
So, okay, last question before sharing like where people can find you. Is I always love asking like what advice you would give to your old self from the perspective you have now. And so what advice would you give to, yourself, whether it was pre-babies or more so, I think for you, like what advice would you have given to yourself when you were in kind of the depths of despair and early motherhood?
um I think like just not listening to other people's opinions and not trying to please everybody, because everyone has an opinion on how you should be parenting, and you're not going to please everybody, and you're not going to do it the way everyone thinks you should. Everyone has a different opinion. So just like what we were saying, I would really like to tell myself to be more confident in the decisions that I'm making, and also try to be a little bit more relaxed and not stress so much about doing everything perfect. Because
Yeah.
I definitely think I put a lot of pressure on myself to do everything just right.
Mm.
Um, so that would be, and also like I wish I had kind of splurged on more expensive baby things. I was very against like buying the expensive stuff and they're like, I don't need it. And then later ended up buying it because I was like, I need it.
Yeah, we've kind of come to that realization for traveling, like to Italy, where we're like, all right, this is probably going to be a time to like splurge on some things for ease, the sake of ease, and like not having to like fully raw dog this like traveling experience.
Yeah.
Um, but
Are
yeah,
you
I love that.
it's like going to one location or are you like
Yeah,
traveling?
yeah. We're going, well, we have like, we're going to be there for 2 weeks and we have two different places we're staying, but they're like 2 hours apart. We're trying to kind of minimize tons of traveling. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted. Pray for me.
If
Um,
you need any, I mean, we've done a lot of traveling with our kids. So if you need any
oh
tips
yeah.
on what I traveled with, um,
Mm,
I bought all the things. So
yeah, you have to send me a list after this on like your favorite flight treats and goodies. I think you commented on mine though. I did write a list of everything that people commented. People were sending me pictures of literally like full blown travel, like a cosmetics travel case with different compartments all filled with like treats and things, like different compartments for different little treat and toy bundles. I was like, that's some OCD shit I could get on board with.
I think what my kids played with the most on planes was like a plastic cup. So I
Seriously, someone said a box of Band-Aids and that they just like love like taking out. It's the weirdest shit that entertains kids for hours on end. It's always like the boxes, the toys come in, and I'm like, what the?
wouldn't go crazy with toys on the plane. I would just, keep it simple. But
Yeah, I'll bring
yeah.
my boobs.
Hmm?
And I said I'll bring my boobs. That should be good
Oh
too.
yeah, you're good. Take off
Yeah.
and definitely whip those babies out.
Yeah, so I think somebody said that too. So, yeah, lots of things. I love to, and ending on that note of confidence and just like being more confident in your decisions. And it's been so cool to watch like you grow and also gain your confidence too, because it's really cool to see people like watching their whole evolution from like starting their business on social media and just putting themselves out there and then to grow. And it's just such a testament to you can get comfortable with anything that feels scary or daunting.
I will say too, the more I showed up on social media, the easier it got.
Yeah.
That's motherhood too. The more that you do it, it gets easier as you go
Mm.
along. You just get more comfortable with it. And that can be said for like anything. You just got to stay consistent with it.
Yeah.
Um, so consistently showing up in social media, consistently showing up in my wellness routine, it gets easier the more you do it. And one of the pieces of advice I would give myself would be, like I said, try to be a little bit more relaxed about it. In not try to be perfect. I give that same advice to people starting their wellness journey. Like, it does not have to be perfect. You will trip yourself up trying to show up perfectly every single day. Like, life isn't perfect. Your kids aren't going to sleep. They're going to interrupt you. They're going to wake up. Like, you just consistency over perfection.
Yeah.
I think it's really important just to have that kind of mindset too.
Yeah. I work on that same thing often. With my all or nothing perfectionism ties in and it's an easy trap to fall in. Like nothing will ever be perfect. And if you wait for that time, like you'll get nowhere. And it's just really beautiful to watch yourself grow when you constantly seek out opportunities to get outside your comfort zone. And, a lot of people are like, I could never do that on social media. I could never do that. It's like, yeah, you couldn't until you realize that you can. And then you do, and you keep getting better. And it's like, very reinforcing to what you're truly capable of. And so I love seeing people like grow into themselves and become more empowered and like less of like a shrinking violet. Like, oh God, who am I to say? It's like, who the fuck is anyone to say? Where do you think Brene Brown started? She didn't start doing TED Talks, I bet.
Yes. We all
Like,
start somewhere at the very
yeah,
bottom. We start as beginners. That's another thing I always say too. Like when you're starting off working out or,
yeah,
on nutrition, we all start off as beginners. If it's not perfect, it's okay. Like,
Yeah. Hmm. Embrace the cringe of beginnership and just know I'm gonna suck because I'm new. I think back to some of my first like lives or even podcasts and stuff, where I like listen back. I'm like, this doesn't even sound like me. Like there's so much content out in the world right now where I'd probably like cringe watching back, but like I wouldn't have grown or evolved if I didn't suck and just fearlessly suck. I wouldn't have been able to get better.
my old reels, I'm just like, oh God, this is so bad. But
Yeah, like I don't care though, because I think it's cool for people to go and see like things that maybe don't resonate with you now. It's like if you were only going to show up with things that were going to resonate with every version of you, like that's not, you're never going to put yourself out there because you're going to grow and evolve as a human being. So inevitably, like content from 4 years ago, I'm like, yeah, I'm a different person now, but I'm glad for people to see that like that's where I started. This is where I am. And like maybe that's not something I would make now, but if you're going to judge me for my content 4 years ago when I was just starting, then like you can fuck off and I probably don't want you in my life anyways.
very fuck off personality mindset.
Yeah.
You can just fuck off.
Yeah, you can just like fuck off. All right. But all right, where can people find you? Share where you're located in the interweb and yeah, we'll wrap it up.
Primarily on Instagram. Do you want me to say my handle?
Yeah, girl. Drop that
At,
hand.
oh gosh, at that underscore balanced life underscore. Or you can
No
probably,
underscore between balanced and life.
yeah, just under that and under
That
life.
underscore balanced life underscore.
Yeah. Primarily
Nice.
on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok, but it's really not that exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. I post a lot of my questionable content on TikTok and then I act more normal on Instagram.
Right. I feel like sometimes I use TikTok kind of as a, is this gonna do well? Let me test it
Like,
out.
let's see how many people this outrages. And then if it's not too many, I'll post it on Instagram.
And in my profile, there are a couple links you can click on to join my wellness community if you're looking for help getting started
Awesome.
in
Yeah,
all the
well, thank you so much. And that underscore balanced life underscore on Instagram, TikTok. Make sure to click the link in the bio to explore everything that Shana has going on. And otherwise, thank you so much for being here. That was really fun just chatting about mom life and all the things. So thank you and have a great day, everyone.